In this lecture, we'll be discussing some of the fascinating history of cartography. So let's first ask, when did it all begin? Well, it really depends on what counts as a map. Many scholars agree that one of the oldest is Imago Mundi, created by the Babylonians. This was a clay tablet and depicted a river valley, most probably the Euphrates, including mountains and large body of water. Other cultures also began mapping in ancient times, including the Egyptians for land surveys for tax purposes, and the Chinese, who established some really great basic cartographic principles. But it was really the Greeks who developed many of our modern cartographic ideas. In the 4th century, the Greeks introduced several things, including the spherical shape of the Earth, the concept of the equator, the divisions of the Earth into hot, temperate, and frigid zones, and an accurate measure of the size of the Earth. Most notably, this accurate measure of the size of the Earth was done by Eratosthenes of Cyrene, depicted on the right. He was the first person to calculate the circumference of the Earth, and honestly, he did a pretty accurate job. Other Greek contributions in chronological order include the following. On the left, we see Anaximander's reconstruction of world map centered on the Aegean Sea, surrounded by ocean. It was very common for early maps to put oceans all along the perimeter, as oceans provided the limit of the known world. A similar map is shown on the right, but this one's by Ekataios of Miletus. This is a reconstruction of world map based on Anaximander's, but it's been corrected and enlarged by comparison. It also includes other features. Eratosthenes' work was also the basis of this map. This is an 1883 reconstruction of an improved world map, incorporating information from the campaigns of Alexander the Great and his successors. In this particular map, Asia became wider, reflecting the new understanding of the actual size of the continent. Eratosthenes was also the first geographer to incorporate parallels and meridians within his cartographic depictions, attesting to his understanding of the spherical nature of the Earth. This map is based on the work of Posidonius. It is a 1628 reconstruction of Posidonius's ideas about the positions of continents, and keep in mind that many details couldn't have been known for certain by Posidonius. Like Eratosthenes, Posidonius, Strabo, and Ptolemy were all interested in the actual size of the Earth. How big is the Earth really? Posidonius measured the Earth's circumference, and his measure translates to about 24,000 miles, which is close to the actual circumference of 24,901 miles. He happened to have been informed in his approach by Eratosthenes. Both men's figures for the Earth's circumference happened to be uncannily accurate for their time, but both of their measurements were actually made more accurate by mutually compensating errors in measurement. The errors that were mutually compensating in the measurements of Eratosthenes and Posidonius were noticed by others. The version of Posidonius's calculation that was popularized by Strabo was revised by correcting the distance between Rhodes and Alexandria, but this resulted in a much smaller circumference of 18,000 miles. Ptolemy discussed and favored this revised figure of Posidonius over Eratosthenes in his work Geographia, and during the Middle Ages, scholars divided into two camps regarding the circumference of the Earth. Some accepted the larger measure and others accepted the smaller measure. Speaking of Ptolemy, here's one of his works. This is the oldest surviving Ptolemaic world map, redrawn according to his first projection by monks at Constantinople under Maximus Planudes around 1300. More about Ptolemy. Claudius Ptolemy of Alexandria's most famous work was Geographia. The 8th volume of this work discussed basic principles of cartography that we still use today, in particular, the construction of projections. Numerous maps that located many of the known places of the Earth were also included in Geographia, lending itself to be an excellent resource for centuries to come. What's pretty neat about Geographia is that it's currently available on Amazon. It's kind of odd to think of such an old text being available on Amazon, but it is. And under the product information, you find more information about what's included in Ptolemy's work. Under the product information, it states that this work is the only book on cartography to have survived from the classical period and one of the most influential scientific works of all time. Written in the 2nd century AD for more than 15 centuries, it was the most detailed topography of Europe and Asia available, and the best reference on how to gather data and draw maps. More importantly, he introduced the practice of writing down coordinates of latitude and longitude for every feature drawn on a world map.